All right, so we're back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
And this time we're looking at something pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
A brand new season of Grace.
Grace is back.
Season 5, and it premiered today, April 6th, 2025.
Yeah, hot off the press.
So we're going to be talking all about this new season.
4 new 2-hour stories coming up.
Feature-length episode.
I know, it's almost like getting like 4 movies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot to look forward to.
So before we dive in, for anyone who maybe hasn't seen this show before,
Right.
give us a little bit of a background on Grace itself.
Sure. So Grace is a British crime drama based on the best-selling novels by Peter James.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And the central character is Detective Superintendent Roy Grace,
Oh, okay.
who he's kind of a brilliant but troubled detective.
Yeah.
He's haunted by the disappearance of his wife
Right.
years ago, and he uses kind of unconventional methods to solve crimes.
Okay.
And the show is set in Brighton,
Yeah.
on the south coast of England.
So kind of a gloomy seaside town.
Yeah, exactly. It's got that kind of atmospheric backdrop.
Right, yeah.
And it's full of sort of, dark secrets and that kind of thing.
Very noir.
Yeah.
So John Simm
Yes.
plays Grace.
He's fantastic in the role.
Right. And we've got Richie Campbell as D.I. Glenn Branson.
That's right.
They're the kind of central duo.
Yeah, the partnership
Yeah.
is brilliant, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of good chemistry there.
So we've got a lot of familiar faces back
Yeah.
this season.
It's good to have that continuity, I think.
Uh-huh.
We've got Zoe Tapper as Cleo Moray,
Right.
Grace's partner.
Yes.
Brad Morrison's back as DC Nickel.
Yep.
Laura Elphinstone as DC Bellamé.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Hoare as Cassian Pugh, who's a bit of a mysterious figure.
Right.
And Rebecca Scroggs is back as Ari Branson,
Okay.
Glenn Branson's wife.
So it's good. We've got this kind of core cast back.
Yeah, it gives you that familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of back in that world.
But then each episode also has like a whole bunch of new guest stars.
Yeah, that's right. That's what keeps it fresh.
Right.
And this first episode, Dead If You Don't,
Mm-hmm.
they've got a really impressive lineup.
Okay, so let's talk about some of these guest stars.
Right.
What about Finn Guggen?
So Finn Wigan is playing Bruno, who is Roy Grace's son.
Okay, and this is a much bigger role for him this time.
Yeah, his most significant appearance to date.
Okay.
And he's actually going to be a recurring character this season.
So it seems like we're going to get
Yeah,
to see a bit more of Grace's personal life.
I think so, yeah. I mean, oftentimes with these crime dramas,
Mm-hmm.
you've got the cases, but then you've got the personal life of the detective.
Right.
And that kind of gives it an emotional anchor,
Yeah.
And I think the fact that Bruno is going to be recurring
Yeah.
and that they're bringing him up after a loss that they suffered
Right.
suggests that, we might see a bit more of Grace's vulnerabilities
Yeah.
this season.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, and Guigan himself,
Yeah.
he's been in things like Silo,
Mm-hmm.
so he's no stranger to good drama.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So then we've got Sean Dingwall
Oh, yeah.
playing Joseph Ludlow.
Yeah.
Now, he's been in loads of stuff. Top Boy, DCI Banks.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
Yeah.
He always brings a real intensity.
Mm-hmm.
He often plays characters that have got sort of a hidden edge to them.
Right.
So I think him being Joseph Ludlow probably means that,
Yeah.
this is a character who's got some complexities. Maybe
Yeah.
he's got something to hide, or maybe he's even an antagonist in this story. Dead If You Don't.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll have to see.
And then there's Maya Sandhi,
Oh, yeah.
who plays Dr. Zara Kavinda.
Right.
Now, she's got a teenage son,
Yeah.
and it seems like he's got himself into some serious trouble.
Yeah, a troubled teenager. Always a good ingredient
Yeah.
in a crime drama.
Right. And of course, we know Maya Sandhi from Line of Duty.
That's right. Yeah.
But what's interesting is that she's also actually created a crime drama herself, D.I. Ray.
Yeah, so she's got that kind of behind-the-scenes experience as well.
Right. Do you think that will bring anything to her performance?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think it gives her a real understanding of, how these stories work. And I think she'll really be able to get to the emotional heart
Yeah.
of what it's like to be, a mother in this
Without-
situation.
And caught up in this
Yeah.
this world.
Exactly.
And then we have Madalena Bellario
Okay.
as a character called Dren.
Right.
And she's described as kind of being on a quest for her own identity.
Okay.
And she's been in The Young Pope and Pennyworth.
Yeah.
So again, another good actress.
Yeah.
But when you hear a character's looking for their own identity,
Mm-hmm.
they could be a victim, they could be a perpetrator, or just someone caught in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah, they could be anyone.
Yeah.
It's really intriguing.
Right.
And I think, that kind of independent drive that she's got.
Yeah.
Could really shake things up.
Mm-hmm.
Her story could kind of intersect with the main plot in really unexpected ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then there's Abhin Galea,
Yes.
who plays a businessman called Kip Kavinda.
Okay.
And he's been in things like Andor and Hijack.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you've got a businessman in a crime drama?
Right.
It's like, is there corruption
It
involved?
makes you think, is there something dodgy going on?
Right.
Because often there is.
Yeah.
But, he could be a good guy. He could be a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Abedin Galea can play both sides.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what his role is.
Okay, and we've also got Tobias Jowett
Yeah.
playing Frank Kavinda.
Uh,
So we've got Dr. Zara Kavinda, Kip Kavinda.
mm-hmm.
Are these all related?
Sounds like we've got some family connections going on there.
Okay.
I think that's a good bet.
So they're all Kavindas,
Yeah.
and that could be important for the plot.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Because, family ties
Yeah.
often provide really strong motives,
Right.
in crime dramas.
Yep.
And it creates these really intricate connections.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think the relationships between Frank, Zara, and Kip
Yeah.
could be really central to this episode. Dead if you don't.
Okay.
Keep an eye on those.
Okay. Then we've got Margot Lester playing Margot Balthwell,
Okay.
and she's been in just tons of stuff.
Yeah.
Coronation Street, Doctor's White Widow.
She's a real veteran,
Yeah.
And I think when you've got someone with that much experience,
Right.
they can often bring a real kind of grounded realism to their characters.
Yeah.
So even in kind of heightened situations,
Yes.
they kind of make it believable.
Yeah.
So I think she could be, a really interesting character.
Okay.
Maybe she's just a witness. Maybe she's got a hidden connection to everything.
Right. Yeah.
We'll have to see.
And there's Maja Bloom
Yeah.
playing Allegra.
Okay.
Now she's been in the Fantastic Beasts films, and her character is described as enigmatic.
Enigmatic. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
What does that even mean?
I know, right?
I mean, it definitely sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
Is she hiding something? Is she a suspect? Or is she just kind of mysterious?
Right.
Yeah. I think it's definitely someone to watch.
Okay, and then we've got Oakley Pendergast
Okay.
playing Noel Ludlow.
No.
He's a teenager,
Right?
and we've already talked about Joseph Ludlow.
Yeah.
So it seems like they must be father and son.
That would make sense. Yeah. Okay.
And Oakley Pendergast has been in things like Masters of the Air.
Right.
So often with teenagers in crime dramas.
Mm-hmm. They're either victims or they're caught up in something
Yeah.
that they shouldn't be.
Right. So, yeah, I wonder what's going on there.
Yeah. And the fact that Pendergast has done those kind of intense roles before,
Yeah.
maybe Noel's in some serious danger.
Okay. Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Then we've got Ewan Bailey as Patrick Morris.
Okay.
He's another businessman.
Another businessman.
Yeah, he's been in Strike and EastEnders. So we've got two businessmen now.
Yeah. It's starting to look like
Yeah.
the world of business might be quite central to this case.
Some sort of financial dealings?
Yeah, maybe corporate intrigue.
Okay.
Patrick Morris could be an ally to an obstacle to others.
Right.
Or maybe even a target.
Okay. And then finally we've got Kaisa Hammerlund
Right?
playing Elena Ludlow. So we've already got Joseph Ludlow and Noel Ludlow. So I think she's probably the wife and mother.
Makes sense completing the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's been in Hijack in the Nest.
Okay.
So it really does seem like families are going to be a big part of this episode.
I think so, yeah. It's all about those relationships. And, Elena Ludlow adds another dimension
Right.
to the Ludlow family dynamic.
Yeah.
Is she trying to protect her son? Is she supporting her husband? Or does she have her own secrets? Right.
I think her perspective as the matriarch of the family
Yeah.
could be really interesting.
Okay, and then on top of all of those,
Yeah.
we've got Arthur Eliev as Drayton,
Okay.
Carolina Valdez as Nadiska de Sancha,
Right.
Isabel Shuka as Laura,
Mm-hmm.
and Eddie Mannon as Kona.
So even more characters.
Yeah, no, it's a big cast.
It is a big cast.
But I'm sure they all have their part to play,
Yeah, absolutely.
even if it's just a small part.
Right. Sometimes it's those smaller characters.
Yeah.
They can really throw a spanner in the works.
Mm-hmm.
They can be red herrings. They can give crucial information.
Right.
They can just add to the whole kind of tapestry of the story.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
So it seems like we've got a really strong lineup of guest stars
Yeah, it's a really impressive cast.
to go with our regular cast.
Mhm.
And it's going to be interesting to see how they all fit together.
Yeah.
And how their stories, kind of interact with Grace and Branson.
Right. So if you're planning to watch season 5,
Yeah.
it's on ITV Sundays at 8 p.m.
Yeah. Don't miss it.
So what should people be looking out for?
I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Grace's son being introduced affects his decision making.
Right.
Does it make him more cautious? Does it make him more reckless?
Yep.
How does that affect his relationship with Branson?
Right.
So definitely keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
And then all those family connections we talked about, the Kavindas and the Ludlows,
Yeah.
I think those are going to be really central
Okay.
to the story. So pay close attention to them.
Okay.
And then anyone who's described as enigmatic,
Right.
they're the ones that could really surprise us. So keep your eye on them.
Good advice.
Yeah, hope so.
So that's been our deep dive into the cast of The Grace season 5 premiere. Dead If You Don't.
Yeah.
It looks like ITV have put together another great show.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one.
I'm excited to watch it.
Me too.
So thanks for joining us, and we'll be back soon with another deep dive.
All right, see you then.